talked about study abroad. I've glorified it on a whole new level. But one thing I've realized that I've not talked about the cons of studying abroad. So in this video, I'll be very honest with you. What are the cons that you'll be facing while studying abroad? And this is something no one talks about, and this is something you should know if you plan to study abroad. First biggest con which we as students don't understand is that course requirements are not going to be like what Indian course requirements are. Because ideally, when you're studying in India, let's suppose you're doing a bachelor's, you can actually not attend the classes and then finally go for the exam with just 2 days of preparation, right? That does not happen when you're studying abroad. There are so many students who I've talked to, who my students are, who actually can clear the exam without actually giving the final exam. Why? Because the credits are divided. The marks are divided. If you give the first presentation, you get some number. If you give the second exam, you get some number. And finally, if you give the final exam, you get the rest of the numbers. So if you end up getting all the numbers throughout the semester, even your final exam, even if that does not go that well, you will still get marks. So you are not judged based on just one final exam, but you're judged holistically on everything that you do. The presentations that you do, the assignments that you do, the submissions that you do, everything is graded. Unlike in our system where only the final exam is given preference. So what happens with many students is they think that I'll go study abroad and I'll be working also. But then what you don't understand is studying abroad is not like studying in India. In India, and specifically Delhi University, you can get a tenure and finally check the tenure just like a guide and give the final exam. Not like study abroad where you have to do all on your own. Plagiarism abroad is considered a very bad thing. But meanwhile, in my university, in Delhi University, plagiarism was actually what we did all day. So this is one thing that you need to know. Second thing is language barrier. I've talked about Italy one too many times. Like Italian government pays you 7,000 euros to study in Italy. Germany has free education. But then language barrier is one major thing that people suffer. When you're studying Italy, you need to learn Italian. That's a new language altogether. You have to leave your Hindi or any other mother tongue that you have. You don't have to speak in English and you have to talk in a foreign language. That's a very big thing. As an international student, you might feel like, okay, that would be easy, but then having everyday conversation in a foreign alien language is difficult. And that same thing happens with Germany also, and also happens in Canada if you plan to study in Quebec. So learning a new language is not that easy. Third thing is rent. In India, you end up spending somewhere around 10 to 15,000 for rent, right? I know so many people who end up spending 60,000. In fact, I was also spending somewhere around 50,000 in a rent when I was living abroad. 50,000 Indian rupees as rent every month. That's somewhere around 6 lakh rupees for a year. Yes, that's what you'll be spending in for housing. And then the number of scams that go for housing in every country. Don't think that you're going to Canada, you'll not find scams. One of the biggest scam that there is while studying abroad is housing. You will be scammed one too many times. So make sure when you're planning to study abroad, housing is sorted for. And one platform that I would recommend you guys is Amber. So if you're planning to study abroad, you can check Amber. I would leave their link in the description also. You could check their place, and this is something that is reliable. While you're studying abroad, many places have Facebook marketplaces and many other things, but then there are so many scams going on there. I remember one of these stories where I told my friend that I'm looking for a house, but I'll only go to an Indian and ask an Indian for a house because they are the people who are from my community and they will not cheat me. And his first reaction was, trust anyone but an Indian. So if you cannot trust even your own people, who do you trust when you're studying abroad? So that's a major con. When you're planning to study abroad, rent is going to be a big expense and there are many scams going on here. So please make sure whenever you're planning to rent out a place, be aware of many things. There are so many things. I can make a video on that. There are many ways in which you can be scammed. I made a video with Pratik also in which he was talking about rent scams and all. So yeah, please make sure when you're planning to study abroad, even if you end up paying $1 more, you end up living in a place where you're not being scammed. Fourth is homesickness. Now for this, I would tell you that 99% of the people who studied abroad actually are happy that they studied abroad. So that's a good thing, right? But 74% do feel homesick as well. So that does not mean that feeling homesick means that you're not enjoying your life there. But then living away from your family is a big step. You have to be sure about taking this step. Why? Because let's suppose you plan to study in Canada, it is very difficult for you to come back. I mean, if you do plan to come back, it would be once in 2 years, once in 3 years. So you would definitely feel homesick when you're planning to study in Canada. If you're planning to study in UK, it would be slightly easier. Why? Because it's just a 6-hour flight away. Still possible. But if you're planning to study in Canada, it's a 14-hour flight away. That too, getting a direct flight is way too expensive. So many times you will be having a layover. So it's 2 days of travel. And if you consider going to and fro, that's 4 days of travel. So people end up not coming back home that often. And homesickness has 74% people feeling homesick. So that's a sort of a major flaw, but 99% people end up loving that they studied abroad. They love the fact that they studied abroad. That's one more thing that you should keep under consideration. So it's a pro as well as a con. Next thing is university rankings. Many students end up choosing university just based on university rankings. Now, one thing you need to understand is university rankings are many times paid for. I'll not name any institution, but many a times you can see, if you check in India, which is rank 1 non-for-profit organization in India, you'll see some names and you'll be shocked. What is rank 1 university of India for non-for-profit organizations for masters, let's suppose, or bachelors, let's suppose. So these rankings can be paid for, and these are usually paid for. Obviously, if you're looking at QS rankings, their top 10 will not be paid for. But then beyond top 10, no one looks at that. And then when you're comparing, you're seeing that there is a university that is ranked 32nd and there is a university that's ranked 40th. I might go for rank 32 university. Maybe that 32nd university is paid for. So rankings should not be the only metric of your choosing a university. What would be the best metric? Talking to alumni. Talking to people from that university who have graduated from that university. Having a conversation with them, asking them whether they found a job or whatever your future plans are. Let's suppose you plan to come back to India, talking to students who did plan to come back to India after their degree. Because any university that you look at, you'll obviously find Indians there. You'll obviously find one too many people who have already gone through that path. Why don't you talk to those people? It's just simply on LinkedIn. So make sure to do that. And if you want to know how to make a good LinkedIn account, that video is here. If you like this video, do hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. Also, do check Amber from the link in description.